Hello and welcome to the incredibly influential and highly successful podcast. I'm incredibly influential.
And I'm highly successful.
Today is Wednesday, August 31st, 2022, as we're recording this. And I would like to dedicate this episode to my lovely, lovely viewers and my lovely, lovely co host. And, since we've made it to episode 20, I have a little treat for you. I am going to do this entire episode without complaining or swearing. And we're going to make this a family friendly, positive experience for all of you. And, you know, I, I, I couldn't be happier to do it. So I think let's just stop, you know, uh, uh, beating around the bush, and let's just get into some nice positive vibes
Yeah,
for everyone.
I'm excited, I ask for it all the time, a little less complaining here and there. So, I'm hoping that it isn't an empty promise.
You know, I hear you, and your opinion is valid.
I I'm glad you think so, right? But yeah, let's talk about some things. Well, first of all, I started school. I don't know if Nick, started his new semester
I
like
have.
or if he did last time we talked, but
We did. We talked about that last episode. That was one of, I believe that was one of the rapid fire topics,
uh,
which,
mm,
yeah.
well, I just started on the 29th. So this
Hmm.
this Monday. I also started working this Monday. So lots to talk about. But anything you want to talk about, get into before I do my deep dive, I guess. Or we could talk about the summer as well.
Um, yeah, there was sort of something I wanted to ask you. Since we kind of started the summer out with one of our most popular episodes, actually, was the "We're Not Car Guys" episode. I think that is actually our most popular episode, and
Okay.
we sort of just talked about our summer goals and some things we wanted to accomplish uh, throughout the summer, and uh, there was some from you that I wanted to follow up on and hear about
Well,
that because I always love hearing about your day and the things that you get up to in your personal time because I value our friendship and your thoughts and opinions.
I'm really glad to hear it because sometimes, I am worried that you only care about, you know, uh, what I can give you, not me as a person. And I'm glad I had that confirmation. It's nice to hear. And I, of course, care about you in return. I wouldn't have started this podcast if I didn't, right?
I I I hear you and I thank you for your continued care and understanding.
No problem, man. No problem at all. It's the least I can do to such a valued friend of mine who would never, make me feel bad.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. I would never ever try to do that. Especially not just for sport and for my own amusement. I think that would be a very horrid and unpleasant thing to do, and I would never do that.
I agree. I agree. And I'm glad that you're not that type of person.
So am I. It makes me very happy about myself to know that I am kind-hearted and that all of my friends see me that way, and that
Well, you
none
could
of
be a little bit
you.
more humble, you know what I mean? Like, you don't gotta, go that far, right? It's all right. Anyways, what was your questions for me?
Well, I know we sort of talked about one of your main goals for the summer, and that was that you wanted to become more accomplished in the field of woodworking. And since
Well,
this is the family friendly episode, I will refrain from making any jokes about that.
I don't know what jokes you can make about that, but like, let me tell you about how that kind of has been going. At the moment, it's on a bit of a hiatus. Most several reasons, mostly because I didn't have a job at the beginning of the summer. If you remember, I just finished my tutoring job. And the fireworks stand job didn't really give me as much money as I thought it would. So I've been kind of refraining from trying to do any activities that are too cost that are a big cost, you know. And woodworking is one of those ones that I'd like to. If I do it, I want to do it right, you know. So that's
I
part of the
can
reason I'm
totally
waiting. The second
understand that.
reason that I'm waiting is because after talking to my mom a little bit and thinking about it myself, I realized that my house, this location that I'm in right now, it's a little bit limited on space and on freedom to a certain extent. It's not that I can't do whatever I want. It's just that I can't do whatever I want comfortably, if that makes sense, right?
Yes, I understand that, and I'm glad that you have an understanding of your own limits, and that you're not taking that uh, as a as something that sort of bruises your own self worth and self esteem and confidence in your abilities in the
Well,
field of carpentry.
yeah, kind of. Okay, carpentry's different. Again, woodworking is like like furniture, and like carpentry is more like if it's like attached to a house type of thing. You know what I mean? So there's
Oh,
a slight difference. But
I
I
see.
appreciate, you trying to take an interest, Um, I do. But let me kind of elaborate more on kind of the kind of like where I think of what I'm thinking about with the woodworking, right? At the moment, with this new job that I got, and after talking to my mom and figuring out some stuff, we're trying at the moment to just save money, hopefully work together, and hopefully before too long, uh, move out as me, my mom, my brother probably, and kind of just leave my grandfather to have this house to himself because uh he is that obstacle that's kind of making it comfortable to live here at the moment, right? There's been several incidents in the past that I've spoken about on the podcast, as well as some that I haven't spoken about on the podcast that just kind of make living here not the greatest, right? And I've come to take it to the point where I won't let it stop me from doing what I want to do, but I also understand that there are just some things that aren't possible because I am here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for example, if I want to use the backyard or to like do woodworking, or if I want to use the driveway to park my car, right? Sure, I'll hear him complaining and all that, right? You know, which I'm glad you're not gonna be doing, because
I imagine that
I
is
already hear
very
it. It
very
is,
difficult to hear so often, and it means the world to me to be able to alleviate that stress and difficulty for you.
yeah. So kind of like so, and it's worse for my mom because I feel like she puts herself in a lot of situations where she kind of gets taken advantage of because he's her father. And I kind of understand the whole thing where it's like family first, right? I just never have agreed. I've never have seen eye to eye on that issue when it comes to situations where it's like getting taken advantage of like that,
Mm-hmm.
because she sees it as just like, oh, he's my dad, and I see it as, oh, well, you should be worrying about yourself before him, right? Especially since he's the older one, right? But yeah, that's kind of the main issue with the woodworking is just the location and the money. Hopefully both will be solved now that I have this job and that I've kind of working together with my mom and my brother as well to kind of try to help out. My other goal for the summer, I may have mentioned it, was to sell the car. And I think that maybe at this point, after talking to my mom again, we're thinking about maybe giving that car to my mom after we fixed it a little bit because my mom's car has had a lot of issues. And it might just be cheaper to fix my car than it would be for her to get a new car, obviously. That way, it's not a complete waste just having an extra car around here that nobody uses, right? Because it does still work. It's just several issues with it that need to be fixed before it'll be, like comfortable and safe to drive. Um, so that's kind of where I am with like my summer goals. I was planning on getting a job sometime during the summer, but everywhere I seemed to apply kind of wasn't really working out. I could have applied to more places. I could have probably done more, but I was receiving a lot of rejection from everywhere I applied to. I even got to the point where I was just applying to like any random like store that was close to me to see if I could get a bite, and it was no, not at all. I applied to Ross, I applied to Domino's, I applied to a couple of places, and no, nothing. So I'm
I'm
glad I'm glad it worked out in the end though, because this new job pays me much more than Amazon did. Uh, and I get way more hours, so I should be very comfortable.
I'm glad that you didn't take the rejection uh, as an obstacle and let yourself uh, persevere through what must have been a very difficult time.
Well,
And
like here's kind of how I think about it, right? I kind of think about it like this, right? If uh if I do something that maybe my grandfather doesn't agree with or doesn't like, I think about it like this, he's not the person who raised me, and I know right from wrong, right? So if there's ever a situation, right, where we have a disagreement, I think, oh, well, he can complain, he can talk all he wants, but he won't do anything about it. You know what I mean? That's all he ever does is just complain. So why would I let that bother me, right? You know what I'm saying? I'd
yes,
rather do what I want and, have him complain than not be able to do what I want, have myself be restricted?
I admire your individuality and your unwillingness to let a bad actor change your
Yeah,
point of
but
view.
um that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before maybe we get into like kind of how school's been? For me, how's work been?
Uh, I suppose we can talk about how my goals went uh, over over the summer.
Remind me what your
Uh,
goals were.
I believe my goals were to um, succeed in all of my classes that I was taking over the summer, all six of them, and
What were your grades in the classes?
uh, in my first three classes, I think I got nothing below a B. I think I received two B's and an A. And in my last three classes, I got straight A's, and I would have gotten B's, but thankfully my professors curved them up to A's. So I am able to say that I had one semester with straight A's, and I'm
Y-
very proud of myself for that.
I have had like two situations throughout my college career so far where I've had a similar situation where I'm at like a 90, an 89.6 or something, and I'm real worried about it being a B, and then thankfully they gave me that extra point 4. But I know some people aren't willing to do that sometimes, which is a little unfortunate.
Yes, and I was initially very worried when I saw that they were B's and I did the math myself. But thankfully, my professors noticed that I was working very hard and decided to round my grades up the less than a percent to be A's. And so I have one semester that were all straight A's. And my other goal, I believe, was to grow my streaming career and uh uh I did succeed in that. Uh Perhaps maybe not as much as I had hoped, but I did succeed. I did a charity stream in the early months of the summer for abortion rights, and I did raise an amount of money. Unfortunately, it did not uh, pan out regarding Twitch giving me that money that I had raised, but
I
I.
think that what may have happened, because I was there for part of it, was my contribution was, I think, whenever I subbed, right, I think that the sub automatically renewed before that stream, and that was just like a reminder message, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it may not have showed up on that specific day.
Mm-hmm. That
But
is.
if
It
if
is.
that's what you're talking about,
I believe the ad revenue was also less than expected, but that
what's
it
what's like the average revenue usually?
uh I would say once I updated my advertisement settings, it has gone up from about 1 to 2 cents per stream to about 5 to even up to 15, depending on the amount of viewers. I could pull that up if we would like to take a peek there and take
Well,
a
well,
look
maybe
at
we'll
that.
do a deep dive eventually. But interesting information all around. Anything else that happened for you this summer?
I th- mm, my my memory of anything happening this summer eludes me. My garden was very successful. I grew a great many zucchinis and some cucumbers, some garden beans, no successful watermelons, but such is the way of life. One must bend with the wind instead of standing against it. And a few cherry tomatoes as well. We initially planted something that we thought was basil, but it has turned out to be a, a lemon balm plant instead, we believe. It it is edible, and it tastes rather of uh, like a
You're
peppermint, but with some zest of lemon added to it.
you're quite well spoken this episode. I'm noticing. Any reason why?
Well, I just decided to do something positive and clean up my language to increase the quality of this episode and make it something that you can really calm down to and appreciate for being a for being calm and serene and family friendly.
Could
And
could I talk to you a little bit about what's it called? Like like last time that we were doing a podcast, and to any of those who listened to it, you might remember, um, it was kind of an abrupt ending. I thought, because we were having a whole conversation like we usually do, but I feel like we didn't get to finish that conversation. The whole like GTA thing and all that. What happened? Tell me about it.
Well, I felt at the time that I had raised some valid concerns and and criticisms towards a a video game that I feel could be improved. And it is only because I care so much about the product that I raised such concerns and criticisms.
Well, you understand, as like somebody who listened and viewed that it kind of came off more like you weren't trying to like give positive criticism. Instead, it would come off more complaining. You know what I mean? So like, what would you say to those people
And
out there
I
that think that,
value
like
your
myself?
opinion very much. And I thank you for your constant support and uh understanding of my situation, and I could not possibly be more grateful for your input and your kind attempts at redirection. And I truly could not possibly have a better friend to join me on this podcast, and I think it is of very high quality. And I especially this episode, which is just so positive and fulfilling. And I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoy recording it. And uh, I I I I I would like to just take a second and just thank everyone for listening and for being present with us. And yeah, that's really all I had to say. Is just I thank all of you for listening, and I do hope this brightens up your day, because
It's
that's really my goal when when I come here. I don't know about you,
well,
my
I
host.
like correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I believe that your goal is also, you're big on the business side, right? You're trying to do a little business, and I can appreciate that. I'm over here. I'm taking more of a this is a hobby, a side hustle. I feel like you really try your best to put the effort into this as if it was like a bigger thing than it is, and maybe that type of effort will help it grow, and I appreciate that. I do.
I I value your opinion, and just know that I use the money from this podcast to uh, uh, make sure that I can produce better and more enlightening content, both on this podcast and on my video creation career. Uh, that I can produce better content for the world to enjoy and hopefully learn from and be inspired by.
That is
And
that is really beautiful. It really is. So
and
now that we're kind of done talking about our summers here, and my little question about last podcast here, Let's talk about how our week's been. You know how things are going in our lives, right? I'll let you go first, Nick. You know, tell us about it.
Well, as was revealed on Tuesday, I've been back in school. I have in-person classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, uh, sort of in the middle of the day. Uh, and you know, I am really finding them very enjoyable, and I have really no complaints so far. Um, uh, well, so far meaning not that I'm expecting to, not that I would really expect to have any complaints at all, because I'm just not that kind of person.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Like I think that, you know, I find that in myself as well. I try my best to look on the bright side, you know, not get too held up on things if they don't go my way, you know. It makes my life much more you know, happy that way, you know.
I value your
The
outlook,
the
and
glass half full mentality, you know.
I value your mentality and outlook, and it brings a great amount of joy to my life. And uh, I suppose uh, one of the only peculiarities I'll say, because it's not a complaint, is that I had not been in a classroom for quite some time, since prior to the pandemic. And so being back into the classroom environment is really just quite odd and not something that I am used to. But
Yeah,
it is a
cuz
welcome challenge.
you know, I've gone back to the classroom setting and I had one class in my spring semester. It was my calculus class, the one that I had to just to W at the time because I was struggling quite a bit. But I've also obviously been in the elementary classroom whenever I was doing that as a job, right? So I definitely have seen like some of the changes. Also, it was very strange, you know, being in a college classroom, especially since you know, in high school, pretty much putting effort in was all you really needed to do to succeed, right? Whereas I feel like in college, you know, it's a lot more effort than I would like it to be, is all I'd say for now.
Uh, we are going to head to the ad break soon, but there is a very positive story that I would like to share
I'd love to
that
hear it.
that happened to me recently. So,
I'd
as
love
I've been talking about in class, the classroom setting is quite odd for me, but I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things. And one of those peculiar uh uh things that I'm not used to is raising my hand and giving answers, but I I had gotten back into the swing of it, and apparently I had impressed one of the members of our class, who uh, who before class on Tuesday decided to ask if perhaps I could help her with some tutoring in this class, and that made me feel very
Can you tell
proud
us
of
the subject,
myself.
please? That way we can know what the subject you're.
So I may have clarified this in the last episode, but the class I'm referring to right now, the one that is in person, is my geography and climate class. And I had apparently left a mark on this student, and she had asked me for some tutoring help, and said, well, I would be absolutely honored to. And it was a very positive experience, and I walked away feeling very proud of
Well,
myself.
you know, I hope that you can help her out in the class and also to help her find some awesome podcasts to listen to, including this one. Maybe she's here right now. And if you are, thank you. We appreciate you.
I would hope that perhaps she might end up listening to this episode. If she does, she knows who she is, and I would like to thank her. A lot of the rest of this episode may not have been entirely genuine, but this absolutely
Can you
is.
elaborate on that?
No. Um uh the other story I wanted to relay before we head to our ad break is that during that same class, sort of during class, my professor asked me or asked the class a question about the distance from the sun versus the axial tilt of the Earth as to which one created the seasons, and I answered apparently fairly correctly because my
I,
professor
you know,
seemed very impressed about it. And
I believe I know the answer to that one too. I feel as though I am correct in my answer. I won't tell you. Well, unless you really want to know.
well, apparently he was very impressed by the answer I gave,
Am I
and
prying just a little bit? It's fine.
he I believe the exact quote he said was, "Wow, where's your mic drop?" As in that I had done such a good job answering that question, and that
Can we get
certainly
a
put it.
reenactment for the podcast listeners here? I would love one too, to be honest.
Um, well, I did in fact do the mic drop, so I don't know how well I can uh transfer that to
No, I
the
want I want to hear the performance. Is what I want to hear. The whole mic drop worthy speech.
um. Well, it is a little bit hard considering it was more than 24 hours ago,
Well,
and
you can give us the Cliff Notes version. The fast version.
I believe so, I'm not sure I can summarize it better than what I
No,
already
I I
said.
I I believe in you.
Well, what
On
the
behalf of the podcast listeners, I think that this is a required thing for you to do now that you've mentioned
your
it.
your belief in me is very helpful, and I appreciate it. Thank you. What the professor asked was if the uh, sun is or if the Earth is closer to the sun during the time of perihelion, but it is winter in the northern hemisphere. Why can that be? And I answered, because the axial tilt of the Earth means that the northern hemisphere is facing away from the sun, and that the distance that the Earth is closer to the sun is roughly fairly negligible in terms of the amount of solar energy we receive. So it's much more about the uh, uh, direction the hemispheres face than the distance from the sun. And he said, "Wow, where's your mic drop?" And so I made a pantomime of me dropping a mic very quickly. And
Wow,
that is
wow.
my explanation of the scene.
That is actually how'd that pantomime go? Did you get applause, a standing ovation?
No, no, but I did feel rather intelligent, and I hope that uh, my peers were took that explanation and learned from it. But unfortunately, we do have to do a quick ad break. Thank you for listening so far, and we hope you'll join us afterwards. This episode has been generously sponsored by skunknuggetparenting.com, run by my own talented mother. Parenting is hard. Sometimes kids and parents are like night and day. It can be very hard to get on the same page with them, and a lot of parents have anxiety that maybe they're doing it all wrong. Luckily, there is a service out there that can help. Skunk Nugget Parenting Solutions is a company that provides parent coaching services, resource referrals, and psychological profiling, along with 24/7 phone and text access in an all virtual program. Plus, the first consultation is free. In order to get this amazing service, please visit skunknuggetparenting.com. That is skunknuggetparenting.com. Thank you to Skunk Nugget Parenting Solutions for sponsoring this episode. Thank you all for listening. And now, back to the podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for staying tuned with us. I and I again, thank you all so much for listening and giving us incredible feedback and just everything you guys as an audience do. You are easily some of my favorite people in the world, and we thank you for tuning into us every week. Am I alone in saying that?
No, no, I appreciate everybody who listens. I feel like, uh, I appreciate being able to impact other people's lives, even if it's just to give them a good laugh every now and then with my bud Nick over here. So yeah, thank you all. But
It
let's kind of get into our like some other topics here. Do you want to say anything, or is the floor open? Tell me about it. Talk to me.
no, I think I've quite said really all that needs to be said so far, and I I would like to hear more from you. I would like to hear some of the lovely suggestions for topics that it sounds like you have, and I'm very enthused, and I can't wait to hear more about it.
All right. Okay. Well, let me kind of talk to you, Nick, and you, the audience, about how it's been going for me since I started both school and work. Right.
Yes,
I
please, we
started
would love to hear it.
I started both school and work on Monday. I'm currently on a training schedule because I did disclose to Nick what my work schedule would be, but at the time my work schedule is a little bit different than what I told him just because I'm doing training. During my actual work schedule, I'll be doing Sunday through Thursday, but for my first 4 weeks, as I have been informed, I am going to be doing Monday through Friday, which is the schedule that is desirable to a lot of people, right? Maybe one day, they said, in the far future, if I've worked there for a long time and they see I do a good job, maybe I could apply for that schedule. But uh, for my first 2 weeks, right? The first 2 weeks, I am doing exclusively training, right? And because I've worked in a warehouse before, I was wondering why 2 weeks, right? And as I have been in training for 3 days now, I understand why it takes so long. They really go over just about everything you can think of, right? And because the warehouse I work for now is a warehouse that supplies medical supplies. They have a lot more of an extensive training regimen than a place like Amazon would, especially since it's a much bigger building than the Amazon I worked at was, anyways, right? They also have frequently downplayed. Uh, they're just like, we don't want to, insult or make fun of any of these other warehouses, but we're more important, is what they're trying to say. You know, which I get it. It's medical warehouses. I don't understand the need to downplay the other warehouses. But that's just me. I don't, why put other people down? Just lift yourself up, right? That's what I'm thinking. Anyways, beside the point.
I feel like that is a great piece of advice for life and for the professional workplace.
You
And
know,
I
I,
thank you for sharing it.
I didn't think about it, but yeah, that's a great piece of advice for everybody out there. Instead of putting others down, just focus on you. You know, I think that's always a good place to be. But kind of talking a little bit more about what I've been training. Pretty much there's 6 or 7 trainers. They're all coming in and teaching us their little sections, right? For the first week, we're entirely in a classroom setting. So it feels like, I'm back in high school almost, right? Just sitting there, just listening to lectures all day long, 8 hours a day. Except, it's actually much nicer than in high school because I have my little drink right there, and I'm actually excited to be there. Whereas in high school, I was less than excited. Um, and I get paid for it. So what's better than that, right? Hey, nobody's gonna complain if I sit down for 8 hours and I get paid for it. I won't at least.
I
Uh,
think that you are learning some very valuable skills within these classes, and you may either take these with you in your career, or perhaps they won't serve you outside of this job. But the soft skills that you are learning, such as patience and discipline, will serve you throughout. And I think this is a very valuable use of your time, and I want to congratulate you on being able to have this opportunity and be able to grow your skill set and be able to gain some financial stability in your life.
Thank you, thank you. Well, kind of getting back more into what I was talking about, right? So the first week is sitting down in a classroom, and it's more like general training that everybody has to go through, right? Talking about safety, talking about procedures, pretty much everything you could possibly need to know, the hierarchy, what to do in this situation, what to do in that situation, who to contact if this happens, who to contact if that happens, who to ask questions to if you need this or need that, things like that, right? Kind of very general information. What I'm told
Yeah.
is my second week is going to be more focused on what our actual job tasks are. And there are 2 job tasks that are like the lowest, like where people like me start, associates start. And pretty much the 2 sections are if you are going to be picking small items versus whether you're going to be on machines and picking big items. That's kind of the difference, right? Or for example, right, you have a box of like 40 items, right? The
Mm-hmm.
people that are picking the small items would pick like a certain quantity of those 40 items out of that box. Whereas the big item people like me would be picking up boxes each with 40, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one is loose items, one is boxes. You kind of get it, but one is also on machines, right? Um, and from what I was told is that pretty much all the guys are going to get trained for the big machines. So I'm interested in that because that's kind of what my brother does. Because I think I mentioned it, but my brother and my mom also work at the same warehouse. My mom works on the small items. My brother works on the big items, and I think that's where I'm going to go with my brother over there. My brother's on vacation though, so he's kind of been out. But I have been recognized a couple of times as my brother, which has been interesting. Apparently, we look kind of similar when we both wear hats and masks. Whenever you can just see our eyes and our height, I guess we kind of look similar. At least that's what they say. I don't see it, but hey, whenever and I don't have the heart to correct them whenever they call me by my brother's name, so I'm just like they're just like, "Hey, Dylan." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
I
You
think
know, just in
I think
passing. If we were
yeah.
having an actual longer conversation, I might stop and correct them, but if they're just gonna say hi in passing, I'm not. I feel like, it's not worth stopping them every time. It's all
Yeah.
right though.
I think it's lovely that you are going to be spending more time with your brother and your mom, and that you will be able to have this work environment with them, and be able to perhaps earn a bit more together, and achieve that goal that you set out to do before by moving out with your mom and your brother, and I think that that's really special, and I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm definitely looking forward to getting started. And hopefully, you know, when they took me on like a little tour, right? And they showed me all the different areas. What I'm hoping is that I can, at one point or another, learn different sections of the warehouse, and then I can take that experience, with me, and maybe I can work my way up in this job that I have now, or if I ever get another job, I can take those skills and put them somewhere else. Because from my time working at Amazon, uh, I got a lot of experience, sure, and I was there for over a year, but there definitely are some things that I didn't get experience for, like heavy machinery, things like that, right? So the more things I know how to do, the more things, the more skills I will have, and the better I will look to other people. And I'm glad that I have, I'll hopefully, if I do well enough and they see that I'm ready for it, will allow me to learn more of those skills, right? Um, so yeah, everything with work's going great. Several things that I've enjoyed about work so far is that they have, they have like a nice ice and water machine, as all good workplaces really should. But they also have a nice little coffee machine. Now, I don't really drink coffee, right? Um, because I don't like, the super duper bitter taste. I tried like there was a free cup of coffee from like Burger King I got on a coupon one time. I tried it just because it was free, and I realized that I cannot just do plain coffee. So I have to add lots and lots of things in it to make it bearable for me. But they do have hot chocolate on the machine. I've loved that so far. I also tried a French vanilla. That was just one of the options on the machine. I put the strength as low as it could go, and it was still very bitter. But it was a bearable bitter. So hey, it is what it is. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been going good.
Well, I'm glad that things are going well for you, and I hope they continue to come up, Danny, and I hope that this pattern of success continues for you.
Yeah, it's all going well. But so that kind of concludes like work for now. It's just training, and like I said, hopefully more will happen later. But for my school stuff, I signed up for my classes really really early on in the summer, kind of just that way I wouldn't have to worry about it. I signed up for them maybe in June, right? It was to kind of give you an idea when I signed up for my classes. So I hadn't thought about school until about a couple days before I was starting school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I obviously forgot a lot of things because of the amount of time. One of the things that I forgot was the fact that when I was looking at the classes that I had enrolled in, I forgot the term for those classes, right? And now that I'm starting the classes, I've recalled that two of my classes are 8-week classes. Well, three of my classes are 8-week classes. Um, and two of them are for the second 8 weeks, which, kind of gave me a little bit of relief, right? Because that means I only have two other classes to worry about, right? Uh, and one of those classes of the two I have to worry about for this half of the semester, one of them is a 14-week class, so it's delayed by 2 weeks as well. So really, I only have to worry about one class for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll get a second class, and then obviously the other ones later on. Uh, so the one class that I have right now to worry about is physics, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. It's all online, and it's gonna be a little bit of a struggle to get through, but I'm hoping after this podcast, I won't procrastinate as much as I do. and I'll get some work done. The good news is that some of the due dates are delayed for the first week due to Labor Day on Monday. Also, I have Monday off because they would train me on Monday, but I've been informed that the trainers are all off on Monday, so they can't train me, which means I also get the day off. Cool news, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get a nice little 3-day weekend, and I also get an extra like two days on the due dates of my assignments. So all good things, really. Um,
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll all kind of help me settle into the whole school mindset, because that is the one thing that I've struggled with pretty much the entirety of my schooling career. I've gotten A's and I've gotten B's, but I've always kind of struggled in those beginning weeks to kind of get into a pattern and kind of really be disciplined. I've never really been good at disciplining myself to a schedule or setting time aside. So I hopefully, you know, I can build my schedule kind of around my work and it'll kind of work out that way. But right now it is a little bit of a rough start, you know?
Well, I think you'll be able to push on through and get into a habit and truly make this place your own and really succeed there. I believe in you.
Thank you, thank you. Also, I have some money that I have borrowed from a couple people. I'm good for my money, and I don't like having debts. You know, they kind of weigh on me. You know, mentally. Uh, it's one of those things where as soon as I have something like that, it's hard to you know not worry about it, right? The good thing is because I borrowed money from people that I trust, that it's not as bad, right? As having like actual debts to like a banker or something like that, right? Where the consequences are much more dire. But soon after, a couple weeks of work, I should hopefully be debt free as well and all in the up and up. And then hopefully the car will come with that. I'll fix that up, give that to my mom. I'll get a couple other things. Oh, also, I was gonna bring this up. I keep forgetting, right? But my girlfriend, I I bought her a subscription service many, many months back, right? And it gets like a monthly subscription to like books and stuff. She likes it a lot. But she recently found like a little subscription and she's been giving me that I've been enjoying a lot. Um, we tried one for a couple months that we didn't like too much because the selection was kind of a little bit limited, but it was kind of like camping supplies and stuff. That was more during when I was a lot more into woodworking, if you can kind of imagine, right? Camping and woodworking kind of being a little bit themed closely by each other, right? Um, so I got a couple items. I got like a little hatchet. I got a little camping knife. All really cool things if I ever go camping or whenever I get back into woodworking, right? Which hopefully I'll do in the future. But uh, we found another one that I'm really interested in. I've been trying to get into to watches. I bought myself a watch. Um, well, I got one watch for Christmas from my girlfriend, and I bought myself a watch that I just saw just sitting there. Whenever I strolled through the store, right? It was this beautiful wine color for winter. It was like January, right after Christmas, obviously. So they were trying to get rid of everything. I I love that watch. I love both watches, and I'm trying, to get, kind of make it part of my my everyday attire, right? Because my everyday attire, is kind of very comfortable, casual, like quote unquote lazy, I suppose, if that's how you want to think about it, right? So I'm trying to be a little bit more fashionable, right? Uh, little by little, and hopefully this whole thing where I get to watch every month is gonna be pretty cool. Obviously, since this is all audio here, you can't see it, but it's a nice watch. And maybe I'll post a picture of it. Maybe I won't. Well, I'll have to talk to Nick about see what he thinks because I'm gonna get one every month. I doubt y'all are gonna want to see it every month, but maybe you do. I don't know.
I think that's a great goal to have, and it's good that you have a hobby that you enjoy, and that perhaps you can pursue more than woodworking, which unfortunately didn't work out. But
Well, it like I said, it's I would say that it's on a hiatus. It's not really canceled because there are several things that I picked up and I haven't really followed through on. Kind of like if you remember a lot earlier in the year, I was trying to do rock climbing for a while. I would also like to go back to that because I invested a little bit into kind of getting into that, right? So I do have climbing equipment if I ever did want to go rock climbing again. It's just finances kind of halted a lot of that, right? And hopefully, maybe I'll pick up rock climbing too. Maybe I'll get back to woodworking. Maybe I'll do pick up a new hobby. My brother. I remember I was talking to him recently. He's been getting into like buying colognes. He's getting into buying shoes and things. Hobbies like those where he's like collecting things are obviously gonna become a little bit more money intensive, much more money intensive than any hobby that I could definitely pick up right now. But who knows? Maybe in the coming weeks, coming months, I can tell y'all what's going on, and hopefully, cool things to come.
well, I wish you luck and good fortune and success in your endeavors, and I hope that it all works out for you.
Yeah,
And I really uh and it always makes me glad to hear that you're doing well.
thank you, Nick. Well, Nick, I think that's pretty much all I have to tell y'all about now, right? Um, do you have any other little stories, mini stories, big stories before we get into the big red button?
I I do have one in mind, but I think it would be more prudent of me to not say it now during the current uh, uh, time period of right now. But uh,
Well,
oh wait, yes I do,
this
yes I do, yes I do.
okay.
Um, the Well, this is going to get rid of the family friendly aspect of this video, but the Doctor Who Dong Watch on House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones prequel show, uh, in this episode 2 of season 1, we have not seen Matt Smith's uh, uh, male genitalia.
See, we're still
And,
family friendly because there's no male genitalia here, guys. Not at all.
and, and, we, we, that's all I've got to say about it. Uh, yep. Uh,
Well,
yeah.
well, you know, also kind of concerning the shows, like you're obviously watching that Game of Thrones prequel show. Concerning She-Hulk, today we weren't able to tell you anything else because it's a Wednesday, but hopefully next week, we'll be back on telling our opinions and if anything cool happens.
I have heard very good things about the post credits of chapter 3. So I look forward to watching that tomorrow when I find time, probably after class. And I do look forward to sharing my thoughts with you maybe sometime next week or maybe sometime before then. but I always enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions about the media that I'm currently enjoying with you.
Well, I also like letting you know my thoughts and opinions, and I feel like I have really good opinions. Wouldn't you say?
I I would say that everyone's opinions are valid in their own way, um, as long as they aren't prejudicial or bigoted.
So you think
And
that my opinions are some of the greatest, right?
I I I don't think valuing some opinions over others is is uh good practice. I think doing that leads to exclusion and discrimination, and that's bad.
Yes, we
And
would
I
not
and
like
I
exclusion or discrimination. Wouldn't you say that's a good opinion?
I would say that that is a very valid opinion. I would tend to agree, but I
Wow.
uh
Yeah.
I can't say one way or another if
All right.
perhaps
Well, before we get too much distracted here, do you have a big red button question for us?
I I may or may not have uh a few of them. Uh yes, I do have a few of them.
Wow. Like, let me tell you, whenever I go on to this website to look at potential questions, there are some questions that shock and amaze me at the absurdity. I would like to share this one with you. Not because it'll be the question that we have, but I just feel like the absurdity you would appreciate.
I I think that perhaps you're not giving the person who wrote it enough credit, and I think this does
W-
merit some
w-
discussion.
would you like to hear the question?
Um yes, I would love to hear the question, and I would love to hear
Okay.
your thoughts on it.
Okay. Well, there's no context besides what I'm going to tell you, right? So just keep that in mind. Uh, you get access to the legendary Goat Tower, but they will eat your unlimited breadsticks. That's the entire question.
Well, I think that perhaps the legendary goat tower will be able to grant quite a a significant boon in terms of power and abilities, and I think even if even if there is no potential gain from this, I feel like feeding some creatures and making sure that they're nice and they've got nice warm full bellies is always a good thing. So I think sacrificing my unlimited breadsticks at the Olive Garden is a worthy sacrifice to
You
help
know,
these
after looking
lovely
at the
lovely
poll,
creatures.
right? It's about 50-50. Interesting.
What would you say is your opinion on the issue at hand?
I say, I like unlimited breadsticks a lot, and I don't know what this legendary goat tower entails. Like, if I had more details, maybe I could be swayed to give up my unlimited breadsticks. But I think that I am in the unlimited breadsticks gang right now.
I think that that is a valuable opinion, and I treasure the time that we've spent together
I think that
over
that would
recording this episode.
I think that was a nice little mini one, but you have like an actual full length question that we could kind of dive a little bit deeper into.
I um uh sure. I do have one.
Sure, let's hear it.
You are able to understand every language, but you can not speak any of them aside from your native tongue. So, for those of you familiar with certain tabletop role playing games, this is uh, much akin to being given a permanent spell of comprehend languages, because it does not give you the ability to speak said languages, only to understand them.
Well, I'm gonna ask a question, a clarifying question. You're probably gonna say no, but just making sure. Um, is there any way besides speaking that I could communicate with them in their language? As like writing, things like that.
No,
Because you did specifically say I can't speak their language.
you cannot communicate in that language. You can only receive messages and understand them.
Okay. I still think that I would press the button. Mostly because at the current moment in time, I don't know any other languages. So this is just all overall a net positive, you know?
I
And if I really needed to communicate with somebody in a different language, I probably could just find a bilingual person who knows English as like
I
a translator guide, and they'll take care of the details for me. But I feel as though understanding would help a lot, because even if they might not understand me, I feel as though I'd be able to understand them, if that makes sense, right? And even though I won't be able to communicate with them in language, I could, for example, if I went to like a hotel room and they said my room number in like French or whatever, I don't know. I, that's a situation where I don't really need to respond back, right? You see what I'm trying to say? There's a lot of situations where I feel like the information does not need to be, I don't need to like speak back to them, right? If that makes sense. I could say thank you in English and I would feel just as good as if I said thank you in a different language. I would feel as though I did my part, even if they didn't understand. So
I
I would press the button personally.
I think that there would not be a I think that learning something new is uh is always a beneficial uh thing to have, and even if you can't use it to communicate with others, you can still understand new things, and I think that that makes you uh a valuable member of society, because understanding other human beings is very very important for the success of really all mankind,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's always a good thing to make sure that we understand each other, and that miscommunication is uh is sort of avoided, and you know perhaps being able to understand all the languages of other people. There are many psychological theories that say that your comprehension of language in the language that you are uh, that you think in and was taught to you first has some uh, psychological aspects to you, to your life, that really do impact you. So perhaps by understanding every language, you gain a greater cultural and psychological understanding of other people, which can only help your communication with them. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
that is very beneficial.
I,
I
I I agree. I agree. I think the same thing. And I'm not sure if you know any other languages, right? But I feel as though even if you and I did know other languages, even if you and I knew a lot of languages, right? There's still so many more languages that are in the world that we can never learn them all, right? So having the ability to understand them all, even if maybe we weren't able to speak it or write it or communicate with it, feel like it's still beneficial, you know?
Yes, and I think it would be able to help many people in the archaeology field and be able to understand certain
Yeah.
languages.
Understanding dead languages, that's something I didn't even think of, you know? So
Yes,
so many good things.
and that would give us a greater understanding of our world and where we are in history and what happened to those people, because I think that every person has a story that should be told and that everyone matters. And I would really, really like to end this episode now. Not for any particular reason that is
Well,
unpleasant, I
guys,
assure
I
you.
have been highly successful.
Um, um, I've been incredibly influential. Oh wait, we need to thank our patrons. We need to thank our lovely
Oh,
patrons who
yes,
have been
thank you.
subscribed to us this month.
Thank you to
Thank you to Justin Connor.
Justin
Thank you
Connor.
very
Yes.
much for your generous patronage. Again,
Also,
not a
one
lot of things
more.
in this episode have
Uh,
been genuine, but that was. Thank you.
I have been 100% genuine. He has been incredibly not genuine. Thank
I've
you
been
for
incredibly
listening.
influential.
No, wait, real quick before we go away.
That was
I
a
did
very
want to
good
remind
segue
y'all as
into the
well
ending.
that we have created a Instagram account specifically for this podcast. And I'm sure if you look somewhere in one of our social medias, we'll have a link to it. So feel free to follow us and get podcast related news and updates on new episodes there. But I
Yes,
think that's all for now.
we are on Instagram. We are located at IIHS Podcast, uh, all one word. It's the same username as our Twitter. So if you know where we are there, then you can just plug that username right in to Instagram. But I think that's all we have. Sadly, you know. But uh, we'll be back again next week. I'm really glad this episode is over. But I've managed to do it very, very well, and I'm very proud of myself. I've been incredibly influential,
And I've been highly successful.
and we'll see you next week.